The fog rolled in thick that November morning, cloaking our suburban street in Annapolis like a secret nobody wanted to share. I'd just finished a run, my breath still puffing in the chilly air, when I noticed it. A single pearl earring glinting on the passenger seat of Claire's Audi, half hidden under a crumpled Starbucks napkin. It wasn't hers. Claire hated pearl-schooled them old lady chic once during a tipsy rant at a friend's wedding. I picked it up, the tiny stud cold against my fingertips, and stood there in our driveway, the world muffled by fog and the distant hum of a neighbor's leaf blower. I'm not the paranoid type. At 42, I've seen enough to know most mysteries have boring explanations. Claire and I had been married 9 years, built a life that looked good on paper, a restored colonial house, 2 careers, me as a cybersecurity consultant, her as a real estate agent, and a rhythm that worked, even if it wasn't always electric. But that earring wasn't boring. It was an intruder, a glitch in the system. I slipped it into my pocket, went inside, and poured a coffee, trying to laugh it off. Maybe a client dropped it, I told myself. Claire's car was practically a mobile office, but the weight in my pocket said otherwise. She was in the kitchen when I walked in, scrolling her phone, her blonde hair pulled into a messy bun. "Morning, champ," she said, flashing that megawatt smile that closed deals. "How's the run?" "Cold," I said, leaning against the counter. "Found something in your car. Earring, not yours." Her smile didn't waver, but her eyes did a quick dart to the side, like she was recalculating. "Oh, weird," she said, sipping her latte. "Probably one of my buyers. You know how people leave stuff." She shrugged, already back to her phone, but I caught the tension in her fingers, the way they gripped the mug a little too tight. "Pearl stud," I said, casual as I could manage. "Fancy for a client?" "Yeah, well, Annapolis has fancy clients," she shot back, her tone light but edged. She stood, kissed my cheek, and said she had a showing. Then she was gone, her heels clicking on the hardwood, leaving me with the earring and a question I didn't want to ask. I'm a problem solver by trade. Firewalls, data breaches, phishing scams, I spot the cracks before they break. So I treated the earring like a bug in the code. Step 1. Don't panic. Step 2. Gather data. That afternoon, while Claire was out, I started with her car. Nothing obvious, no receipts, no lipstick tubes, just the usual chaos of pens and parking passes. But under the seat, I found a folded parking stub for a garage in downtown Baltimore, dated last Tuesday, 8:47 p.m. Claire hadn't mentioned any late showings, and Baltimore was a trek for her usual clients. I tucked the stub away, my pulse ticking up. Next, I checked her socials. Claire's Instagram was a curated dream. Open houses, sunset views, boss babe quotes. But her stories showed her pattern drinks at upscale bars, always solo, always tagged in Baltimore or DC, never Annapolis. I scrolled her followers, looking for red flags. One stood out, at Jake Davisite. One, a guy with a slick headshot, bio reading, entrepreneur, traveler, dreamer. He'd liked every post for 6 weeks, commented on an AA photo of Claire at a rooftop bar with, "Looking like trouble," she'd replied with a winky emoji. Subtle. I didn't want to jump to conclusions, but the earring was burning a hole in my desk drawer. That night, I tested her. Over dinner takeout Thai, her favorite tesh was chatty, all stories about a picky client and a botched closing. I waited, then said, "You been to Baltimore lately? Found a parking stub in your car." Her fork paused mid-air, just for a second. "Oh yeah," she said, too smooth. "Met a developer last week. New condo project. Total time. Suck." She pivoted to dessert plans, but I wasn't buying it. Claire was good polished, quick, but I'd spent years reading people's lies in code and contracts. She was hiding something. The next day, I upped my game. Claire was at an open house, so I borrowed her spare key and checked her officer-converted guest room, stacked with files and vision boards. Her laptop was locked, but her planner was open, filled with her loopy handwriting. Most entries were standard: showings, closings, yoga. But every Thursday for the past 2 months, she'd written Bolt Mackend at 7:00 p.m. No details. I cross-checked her bank app on my phone. Her password was still our dog's name. Bless her predictability, and found a $150 charge at a Baltimore wine bar. same date as the parking stub. She hadn't mentioned any wine bars. I needed eyes on her. Following her felt dirty, but so did that earring. On Thursday, I told her I had a late call with a client in California Plausible, given my job and drove to Baltimore in my truck, parking a block from the garage on the stub. The fog had lifted, but the city was all neon and shadows, the kind of place that felt alive with secrets. At 7:15, her Audi pulled in. She stepped out, not in her usual blazer, but a sleek black dress, hair down, heels sharp. She didn't go to a barsh, walked to a boutique hotel, the Ivy, and disappeared inside. I waited, my hands tight on the wheel, the streetlights blurring as my mind raced. Was she meeting a client, a friend, or him Jake Davis, with his smug emoji? I didn't follow her in, not yet. Instead, I called our neighbor, Sarah, a chatty mum who knew everyone's business. "Hey, you seen Claire with anyone new?" I asked, playing it off as a surprise party plan. Sarah hesitated. "Well, she was at the coffee shop a few weeks ago with some guy. Not you taller, maybe. Looked like a real estate type. I figured he was a client. I thanked her, my jaw clenched, and hung up. I wasn't sleeping well. The fog kept coming back, creeping around the house like it was part of the lie. I kept seeing that earring, imagining it on someone else a woman Claire knew, or worse, a stranger. I wasn't just hurt. I was pissed, mostly at myself. How had I missed this? Claire wasn't subtle, she was bold, always had been. Her ambition was what drew me to her, the way she'd charm a room, close a deal, make you feel like you were the only one who mattered. Now I wondered if I'd been played from the start. I got technical. I'm no hacker, but I know my way around a network. I installed a keystroke logger on her laptop, not proud of it, but desperation's a hell of a motivator. It caught fragments, emails to JD, vague but flirty, mentioning Thursday, and the usual spot. I also synced a GPS tracker to her phone, hidden in a cloud backup. It confirmed she was at the Ivy every Thursday, staying 2 hours, leaving alone. Alone, but not innocent. Then I hit gold. Claire left her gym bag in the laundry room, and inside, tucked in a side pocket, was a hotel-branded pen. The Ivy, Baltimore. No big deal, except she'd never mentioned staying there. I checked her email again, this time on her phone, while she showered. One message, buried in a spam folder, was from a booking site. Confirmation for a recurring reservation at the Ivy, paid with a card I didn't recognize. She'd covered her tracks well, but not well enough. I started talking to her coworker Tom, at a happy hour she dragged me to. Tom was tipsy, loose-lipped. "Claire's killing it," he said, grinning. "She's got this investor guy wrapped around her finger. Jake something, always taking her to fancy dinners." I nodded, my beer turning sour, and changed the subject. The evidence was piling up, but it wasn't enough. I needed something she couldn't spin, something that would force her to face me. I kept thinking about her smile, the one she'd flashed when I mentioned the earring. It wasn't guilt, it was confidence, like she knew she'd outsmart me. That's what stung most, not the betrayal, but the idea that she thought I was too soft to catch her. I started profiling Jake. His LinkedIn showed he was a property developer, 40, based in DC, but frequent in Baltimore. His Twitter was all crypto hype and motivational quotes, but one post caught my eye, a photo of the Ivy's bar, captioned, "Work hard, play harder," dated 3 weeks ago. I saved it, added it to my mental file. The moral weight hit me late one night, staring at the ceiling while Claire slept beside me. Was I going too far? Spying, stalking, digging it wasn't who I wanted to be. But forgiving her, pretending I didn't know, felt worse. I wasn't just fighting for our marriage, I was fighting for myself, for the guy who didn't let lies slide. Claire wasn't bored or lonely, she was chasing something. Maybe power, maybe thrill. I needed to know why, and I needed her to know I wasn't invisible. The fog lingered in Annapolis like a bad memory, curling around streetlights and seeping into my bones. It was Thursday, a week since I'd pieced together Claire's secret life, Jake Davis, the Ivy, those Thursday meetings that weren't about real estate. I'd built a case airtight enough to choke on, a pearl earring that wasn't hers, a parking stub, a hotel pen, GPS logs, flirty emails. and Tom's drunken gossip about her investor guy. But evidence wasn't enough. I needed her to see Minot the steady husband she could fool, but the man who'd outsmarted her. I planned the confrontation like a chess move, precise and deliberate. No screaming matches in our kitchen, no public meltdowns. I chose the Ivy's Bar, the same boutique hotel where she'd been slipping away every week. I told her I'd be in Baltimore for a client dinner and suggested we meet for drinks after somewhere nice. "The Ivy's got that rooftop bar you love," I said over breakfast, watching her reaction. Her smile was perfect, but her eyes flickered, like she was scanning for traps. "Sounds fun," she said, and I knew she thought she was safe. That morning, I organized my proof. I printed the email to JD, the GPS logs showing her at the Ivy, the parking stub, and a screenshot of Jake's tweet from the hotel bar. I even kept the earring in a Ziploc bag, dramatic but effective. It felt like overkill, but Claire was a closer she'd spin a lie faster than I could blink if I didn't have her cornered. I wasn't just fighting for the truth, I was fighting for the part of me she'd dismissed. I spent the day restless, the fog outside mirroring the haze in my head. I kept replaying our marriage, looking for the moment it cracked. Was it when I started traveling more, leaving her alone with her ambition? Or when she got that big promotion, her confidence turning sharp, almost performative? Claire wasn't the type to cheat out of loneliness. She thrived on control, on being the one everyone wanted. Jake, with his developer money and slick charm, was probably just a shiny new deal to close. That didn't make it hurt less. It made it worse. I dug deeper into Jake, needing to know who I was up against. His LinkedIn was a masterclass in self-promotion, property deals, TEDx talks, a charity gala he'd hosted in DC. But his Instagram told a different story private, but his tagged photos showed him at the Ivy, arm around a woman who wasn't Claire, captioned, "Good company, better whiskey." The date was a month ago. So he was a player, not a lover. That should have comforted me, but it didn't. Claire wasn't chasing love, she was chasing power, and I'd been collateral damage. I called her assistant, Lisa, under the guise of checking her schedule for a weekend getaway. Lisa was young, eager to please. "Oh, Claire's been so busy," she said. "She's always with that Jake guy for those Baltimore projects. They're, like, super close." I thanked her, my knuckles white around the phone. Super close. The phrase burned, but it was another nail in the coffin. By afternoon I was wired, pacing our house. The fog had thickened, turning the world grey and soft, like it was trying to smother my anger. I didn't want to just expose her, I wanted her to feel the weight of her choices, the way I'd felt it every sleepless night since that earring. But there was a catch. What came after? Divorce was the easy answer, but did I want to torch 9 years over a fling? Or was this about proving I wasn't the guy she could walk over? The moral tug-of-war was killing me. Destroying her could feel good, but it might not fix me. I got to the Ivy early, taking the elevator to the rooftop bar. The place was all mood lighting and velvet, the kind of spot that screamed money and secrets. The fog pressed against the floor-to-ceiling windows, making the city lights bleed into smears of gold and blue. I picked a corner booth, private but with a clear view of the entrance, and ordered a bourbon. My folder of evidence sat in my bag, heavy as a loaded gun. Claire arrived at 8:30, right on time, looking like she'd walked off a magazine cover. Red dress, heels, that smile that could sell sand in a desert. She slid into the booth, kissed my cheek, and said, "This place is perfect. Good call, Nate." Her voice was warm, but I caught the edge of performer sizing up the room. We ordered Drinksha a martini, me another bourbon, and made small talk. She was good, leaning in, laughing at my jokes, tossing her hair like we were on a first date. But I saw the tells, the way her fingers tapped the stem of her glass, the quick glance at her phone when it buzzed. She was playing a part, and I was done being her audience. "Found something interesting," I said, sliding the earring across the table in its little plastic bag. Her smile froze, just for a second. "Not yours, right?" She laughed, too bright. "God, Nate, you kept it. I told you, it's probably a client's. You're so paranoid." Her tone was teasing, but her eyes were sharp, calculating. "Paranoid?" I leaned back, sipping my drink. I thought so too. Then I found this. I pulled out the parking stub, set it next to the earring. And this, the hotel pen. And these. I spread the folder open. Emails, GPS logs, Jake's tweet, the booking confirmation. Her face didn't change, but her hands stilled, like she'd stopped breathing. "What is this?" she said, her voice low, dangerous. "You're spying on me?" Spying? I kept my tone even, but I leaned in, letting her feel the heat of it. "No, Claire, I'm catching up. Jake Davis, the Ivy, every Thursday. Want to tell me it's all client meetings again?" She pushed the folder away, her laugh brittle. "You're pathetic, Nate. Digging through my life like some jealous teenager. What's next? Hacking my email?" "Already did," I said, tapping the printed email. "You're good, I'll give you that. But not good enough." Her eyes narrowed, and for a moment, I saw the real Claire, not the polished realtor, but the fighter who'd claw her way out of any corner. "You don't get it, do you?" she said. "This," she gestured at the folder, "doesn't mean what you think. Jake's a contact, a way to get ahead. You're too busy playing Mr. Reliable to understand." "Reliable?" I laughed, sharp and cold. "That's what you call the guy you're screwing over? Tell me, Claire, is it the money, the thrill, or just that he makes you feel like the star you think you are?" She flinched, but she didn't back down. "You're twisting this," she said. "Yes, I've been seeing him. It's not love, it's business. You wouldn't get it, Nate. You're too safe." "Safe," I repeated, the word like a blade. "And you're reckless. You think you can play me, lie to my face, and I'll just eat it? Look at this." I pointed at the folder. "I know every move you've made. You're out of cards." The bartender glanced our way, sensing the tension, but I waved him off. Claire sipped her martini, her eyes locked on mine. "What do you want?" she said finally. "A divorce? To ruin me? Go ahead, Nate. You're not the saint you think you are." "I want you to admit it," I said. "No spin, no excuses. You owe me that." She leaned back, crossing her arms. "Fine. I've been with Jake. It's not what you're making it out to be, but yeah, it happened. Happy now?" Happy wasn't the word. I'd won, in a way stripped her defenses, forced the truth. But it felt like swallowing glass. I looked at her, the woman I'd loved, and saw a stranger. Not a villain, not a victim, just someone who'd chosen herself over us. We sat in silence, the fog outside pressing closer, the bar's low jazz filling the gap. I could have walked away then, left her with the folder and the bill. But part of me needed more not an apology, but an answer. Why? Was it really just business, like she said? Or was she running from something-us, me, herself? I thought about the early days, her laugh in our old apartment, the way she danced to bad pop songs. Where had that Claire gone? "You could have told me," I said, quieter now. "If you needed something else, you didn't have to burn us down." She looked away, her fingers tracing the edge of her glass. "You wouldn't have heard me," she said. "You never do." It stung, because there was a grain of truth there. I wasn't perfect. I'd let work consume me, let our spark fade. But that didn't justify this. Nothing did. I stood, leaving the folder on the table. "Keep it," I said. "Maybe it'll remind you what you broke." She didn't stop me as I walked out, the fog swallowing me whole. The city felt sharper now, like it was daring me to choose. Divorce was the obvious path, but I wasn't sure I wanted to let go out of love, but maybe pride, or the need to prove I could rebuild. I could ruin her, send the emails to her boss, her clients, Jake's wife, or I could walk away, let her live with her own mess. The earring was still in my pocket, a tiny weight against the chaos ahead. I kept walking, the fog curling around me, and for the first time in weeks, I felt the ghost of a smile. Not because I'd won, but because I was free to decide what came next.